Hello everyone. In this video, we will explore PTE core reading, multiple choice, single answer, and multiple choice, multiple answers. So this session is going to be extremely important if you are preparing for PTE core reading because we are focusing on two tasks that look simple but silently destroys your scores. Yes, the two tasks, multiple choice single answer and multiple choice multiple answers. So most students, they lose marks because they don't understand how to think while choosing options. They read everything slowly, they get confused between similar options, or worse, they guess. So today we are going to fix that completely. Part 1 is multiple choice single answer. So here you will read a passage followed by a question, and you will be getting 3 to 5 options, but only one is correct. Sounds easy, but not really, because all options will feel partly correct, but only one matches the core meaning. Okay, so I'm just going to give you a few strategies for this. The first strategy is logic flow mapping. So this is not just read and understand. This is about tracking how the idea is built step by step. What actually happens in passages? Because most PTE core passages follow a hidden structure, right? Like introduction of topic, contrast, problem or limitation, then the shift where the real idea begins, and then the conclusion or implication. So, what you should do here is instead of reading line by line, you have to ask yourself what is happening in this sentence. Is the author introducing, or contrasting, or criticizing, or concluding? Then the critical insight over here is the real answer is usually after words like however, but, although, yet, because that is where the author reveals the actual intention. Okay? So the result is you stop getting trapped in opening sentences, attractive supporting ideas, and focus only on final direction of the passage. And my next strategy for this one is elimination hierarchy. Most students, they try to find the correct answer, but toppers, they remove answers systematically. I'll tell you how. They build elimination in 3 levels. Level 1, direct contradiction, which means the option says something exactly opposite to the passage. You can eliminate that. And level 2, partial truth trap. So here option is mentioned but not the main idea. And level 3, distortion or exaggeration. So here the options are too extreme or too general or slightly twisted meaning. Okay, so 80% of options are designed to be partly correct but incomplete. And the result here is instead of guessing, you are going to narrow down to one surviving answer. Got it? And the third strategy is scope control. So this is very important. Here, most students fail silently. I'll tell you why. When we are talking about scope, what do you mean by scope? That means how broad or narrow the idea is, right? So the common traps here are if the ideas or the scopes are too broad or it covers more than passage, sounds very powerful but incorrect. Sometimes if it's too narrow, then it only focuses on one detail. Sometimes extreme words like always, only, completely, all. So in this situation, what you have to do? You have to ask yourself, does this option match the same level as the passage? So here your golden rule is correct answer is same scope. Wrong answers means scope mismatch. Got it? Now my fourth strategy here is author intention decoding. So don't just read what is written. You have to understand why it is written because every passage has a purpose which will explain or criticize or compare, suggest, warn. So you have to detect the tone words, words like however. If you encounter the word however, then that means it gives you a shift, right? If the critics argue, then it gives you the negative tone, right? And if there is any suggestion, then it means the recommendation. So you have to ask yourself, is the author supporting something, questioning something, challenging something? So as a result, you have to stop choosing neutral options, surface level answers, and you have to choose true intention answer. Okay, now I'm going to give you an example here. So this is the example passage. You can pause the video and read it by yourself. Then we will move on to the question. The question here is, what is the primary focus of the passage? And you have the four options over here. Please go through this. Now, come up with your right answer. Before that, I'm going to break down the answers, okay? So, we are going to apply the strategies that we have discussed so far. If you see the example here, the passage, the introduction, globalization, right? It's about the growth, and the shift is not uniformly distributed, right? And the expansion is developing nations struggle, and finally, the conclusion here is complex systems with both enabling and constraining dimensions. That's the conclusion, isn't it? So here the real idea is inequality plus complexity. And let's move on to the elimination strategy, because you have to apply that strategy also, right? So if you see option A, it shows only benefits, which means partial. And C, it's only corporations. That's too narrow. And if you look for D, it's too broad, generic advantages and disadvantages. So option B is the right answer. Okay. And if you see the passage, it focuses on unequal impact, not general discussion. Got it? So option B is the right answer. Now let's move on to multiple choice, multiple answer. So this is the passage here. You can just pause this again and you can go through the passage. Once you are done, you can move on to the question. Let me show the question here. Which statements are supported by the passage? So here multiple choice, multiple options. So that means here more than one answer could be correct, right? Now you can look at the options and then you can find out what are the correct options. If you see the option A, that one is clearly stated, which is true. And option B, it is not at all stated in the passage, which is false. And option C, this one is explicitly stated, which is again true. And option D, now this one is again extremely. AI always lead to, I already told you, right? The words are just always the extreme words. Don't fall for that. So this is also false. And option E, here the option is clearly mentioned. So true. Now the final answers are, the right options are A, C, and E. As I told you here, more than one option would be correct, right? So A, C, and E are the right options. So remember, when you combine everything, step one, you have to track the logic flow. And step two, you have to identify the main idea. And then step three, you have to apply the elimination strategy. And step four, you have to check for the scope, whether it is too broad or too narrow. Okay. And step five, check for author intention. And finally, you can apply precision filter, especially for multiple choice and multiple answers. Got it? So when it comes to multiple choice, single answer, you have to think which option covers the whole idea. When it comes to multiple choice, multiple answers, you have to think which options are 100% supported. So never trust which or sounds correct or feels logical. You have to trust the text based evidence. So if you change just one habit today, that means stop trying to find the correct answer and start trying to eliminate wrong answers. That's where your score will change. Got it? So that's all for today's video. Kindly like, share, and subscribe for more PTE code tips. See you in the next video. Bye bye.